He's the man who built himself from nothing. The guy who turned pain into power, weakness into strength, chaos into order. He's disciplined when others are lazy, focused when others are distracted, relentless when others quit. He doesn't complain, doesn't make excuses, doesn't need validation from anyone. The self-made man who conquered every challenge life threw at him through sheer force of will. But watch him at 45, and you'll see something that contradicts everything society tells you about success. The empire he built stands tall. The bank account is full. The body is strong. But the house is empty. The bed is cold. The phone doesn't ring with anyone who matters. The man who mastered everything couldn't master connection. The warrior who won every battle lost the war for intimacy. The fortress he built to protect himself became the prison that isolated him. And here's the truth that will demolish everything you believe about strength and relationships. His strength isn't why women left. His strength is what prevented anyone from ever getting close enough to stay. Today I'm revealing why the strongest men end up alone while weaker men keep relationships effortlessly. Not because women don't appreciate strength, but because the process that creates unbreakable men simultaneously destroys their capacity for the vulnerability that relationships require. Understanding this isn't about choosing weakness over strength. It's about recognizing that the armor that protects you in life suffocates you in love. Every strong man has an origin story. Not the inspiring version he might share at a seminar, but the real one. The brutal one. Father who abandoned him. Mother who was emotionally absent. Betrayal that taught him trust is suicide. Poverty that showed him depending on anyone is weakness. Pain that demonstrated asking for help is the same as begging for more suffering. These experiences didn't just shape him. They rewired him at a neurological level. His brain learned a simple equation: vulnerability equals pain. Opening up equals betrayal. Needing someone equals eventual abandonment. So he built walls. Not metaphorical walls. Actual psychological fortifications designed to ensure he'd never need anyone ever again. He became self-sufficient not because it was virtuous, but because it was survival. He became strong not because he wanted to be, but because being weak almost killed him. This transformation served him incredibly well in every arena except one. Business? His self-reliance made him unstoppable. Fitness? His discipline made him formidable. Career? His independence made him invaluable. But relationships? His armor made him impossible to reach. The same walls that protected him from being hurt again prevented anyone from getting close enough to love him. He didn't just build a fortress. He built a tomb. Here's what nobody tells you about becoming unbreakable. You don't just develop strength. You develop an allergy to weakness, including the normal human need for connection. You start seeing emotional expression as lack of control, asking for support as admission of failure, sharing vulnerability as strategic stupidity. The strong man doesn't avoid intimacy because he's afraid. He avoids it because every instinct he's developed for survival screams that intimacy is danger. Watch what happens when a woman tries to get close to him. In the beginning, she's attracted to everything he represents. The strength, the discipline, the self-mastery, the fact that he doesn't need her. This is intoxicating to women who are tired of weak men who need constant validation. Finally, a man who has his life together. Finally, someone who won't collapse under pressure. Finally, a partner who won't burden her with his problems. But 3 months in, something shifts. She realizes she's attracted to a man she can't actually connect with. He shares his achievements but never his struggles. He demonstrates competence but never uncertainty. He shows strength but never vulnerability. She's not in a relationship with a human being. She's in proximity to a performance of invincibility. And slowly, she starts feeling like she's dating a statue instead of a person. She tries to create intimacy. "Tell me what you're really feeling," he deflects. "I'm fine. What worries you?" Nothing worries him. "What do you need from me?" He needs nothing from anyone. Every attempt she makes to connect with his inner world bounces off the walls he's spent decades reinforcing. She's not being rejected. She's being kept at arm's length by someone who equates letting her in with letting his guard down. The strong man doesn't understand what's happening. From his perspective, he's being the perfect partner. He solves her problems. He provides stability. He never burdens her with his issues. He's strong for both of them. What more could she want? But what he doesn't realize is that she doesn't want a hero. She wants a human. She doesn't want someone who's strong for her. She wants someone who's real with her. This is where the relationship enters its terminal phase. She escalates her attempts to break through his walls. She picks fights hoping conflict will crack his composure. She creates drama hoping crisis will force him to need her. She becomes increasingly emotional hoping to provoke an emotional response from him. But the strong man interprets all of this as exactly what he learned to avoid: chaos, instability, weakness. So he responds the only way he knows how. He becomes more controlled, more stoic, more self-contained. Her escalation triggers his withdrawal. Her emotional intensity triggers his emotional lockdown. She's trying to create connection through vulnerability. He's trying to maintain stability through invulnerability. They're speaking completely different languages, and neither understands why the other won't just communicate normally. The end comes in one of two ways. Either she leaves because she can't live with someone who won't let her matter to him, or he leaves because she's become too chaotic for his ordered existence. Either way, the relationship dies from intimacy starvation. Not because anyone was toxic, not because anyone was wrong, but because his survival mechanisms and her connection needs were fundamentally incompatible. After she leaves, the strong man does what strong men do. He doesn't grieve. He doesn't process. He doesn't question his approach. He goes to the gym. He focuses on his business. He doubles down on the very patterns that destroyed the relationship because those patterns work everywhere else in his life. He tells himself she wasn't strong enough for him. She was too emotional. She needed too much. She couldn't handle a real man. But late at night, when the discipline drops and the armor cracks just slightly, he knows the truth. She didn't leave because she was weak. She left because he wouldn't let her in. And the really devastating realization creeping in behind that truth is this: he doesn't know how to let anyone in. The walls that protected him became his identity. He's not a strong man who happens to have boundaries. He's a fortress pretending to be a person. This pattern repeats with every woman who tries. The initial attraction to his strength, the gradual frustration with his emotional unavailability, the escalating attempts to create intimacy, his increasing withdrawal to maintain control, the inevitable end when she realizes she's alone even when he's physically present. The strong man watches relationships fail over and over, and every failure reinforces his core belief: people leave, connection hurts, vulnerability destroys. What makes this particularly tragic for strong men is that they're often the most loyal, most committed, most capable partners in practical terms. They show up, they follow through, they solve problems, they provide, they protect. They do everything a partner could want except the one thing that actually creates lasting intimacy. They won't be vulnerable. They won't need. They won't let anyone see them as anything less than completely self-sufficient. The irony is suffocating. The man who can handle anything can't handle admitting he can't handle something. The man who fixed everything can't admit something is broken inside him. The man who fears nothing is terrified of being seen as human. His strength is so complete that it can't accommodate the normal human experiences that create connection: uncertainty, need, fear, weakness, dependence. Here's the brutal biological reality that compounds this problem. Women are evolutionarily wired to seek strong men: protection, resources, stability. The strong man provides all of this. But women are also wired to bond through emotional intimacy, shared vulnerability, mutual dependence. The strong man withholds all of this. She's attracted to what makes him strong but needs what his strength has destroyed: his capacity for emotional connection. This creates an impossible bind. If he softens, if he opens up, if he shows vulnerability, he violates everything that made him strong in the first place. But if he maintains his strength, maintains his walls, maintains his invulnerability, he guarantees that no woman will ever feel truly connected to him. He can't win. His strength ensures initial attraction but guaranteed eventual abandonment. Society makes this worse by celebrating the strong, silent type. The man who doesn't complain, doesn't need support, handles everything alone. We turn this into an ideal of masculinity without acknowledging that this ideal is fundamentally incompatible with human connection. We create men who are perfect at everything except the one thing that actually determines whether they'll spend their life with someone or spend it alone. The strong man sees weak men in happy relationships and feels contempt mixed with confusion. That guy falls apart over minor setbacks, yet his girlfriend is devoted. That man cries during movies, yet his wife adores him. That weak-willed individual leans on his partner constantly, yet she seems happy to be leaned on. How? How are these inferior men succeeding where he's failing? The answer breaks him if he's honest enough to face it. They're succeeding because they never built the walls. They maintained access to their emotional core. They preserved the capacity to need someone, to be uncertain, to show weakness. What he sees as their pathetic lack of strength is actually their preserved humanity. They can connect because they never had to become fortresses. They have relationships because they're still reachable. But here's where it gets complicated. Should the strong man abandon his strength to pursue connection? Should he tear down walls that protected him through legitimate threats just to accommodate someone's need for intimacy? This question reveals the tragic core of the strong man's dilemma. His walls weren't built for no reason. They were necessary once. Maybe they're still necessary in a world that punishes vulnerability. The problem is that walls don't discriminate. They don't stay up only when you face actual threats and come down when you're with someone safe. Once built, they're permanent. The strong man can't selectively lower his guard for a relationship while maintaining it everywhere else. His psychology doesn't work that way. He either protects himself completely or risks everything, and risk feels like suicide to someone whose survival depended on never being vulnerable again. This is why strong men end up alone. Not because women don't want them, but because wanting someone and being able to connect with someone are different things. A woman can desire a strong man and still feel lonely next to him. She can admire his strength while grieving the impossibility of ever matching to him in a way that makes him need her back. The strong man at 45 looks at his empty house and tells himself he chose this. He chose his standards. He chose his strength. He chose his independence. And he's not wrong. But what he doesn't admit, what he can't quite face, is that these weren't free choices. They were survival responses that became permanent psychological architecture. He didn't choose strength over connection. His trauma chose it for him decades ago, and he's been living with the consequences ever since. For young men reading this who are building themselves into something stronger, understand what you're doing. Strength is necessary. Discipline matters. Self-reliance is valuable. But if you build walls so high that nobody can scale them, you'll win every battle and lose every relationship. The goal isn't choosing between strength and connection. It's maintaining enough humanity inside your fortress that someone you trust can occasionally be let inside. The truth hurts because it's not fixable with more discipline or more strength. The strong man's problem can't be solved by being stronger. It can only be solved by risking the very thing his strength was designed to prevent, being hurt. And most strong men would rather die alone than risk that again.